And good evening, sports fans, and welcome to a brand new episode of Let's Whine About DMV Sports here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Tonight, we will be taking a deep dive into our favorite DMV teams. We're, of course, going to kick it off with some NFL talk. That's right, Week 1 is officially in the books, and, well, the DMV, not a good start. Not a good start. You know, what else can you say? We're also going to check in on our Mystics as they wrap up the WNBA season. We got to wrap them up because we got the Wizards and the Caps right around the corner. So we got to get some of these DMV teams out of here into the offseason to make some space. And then, of course, we have to catch up on our baseball teams, one of which is doing well and the other of which is floundering down the stretch. And who is who might surprise you. All while continuing this month's theme of Winking Owl Wines with their next white wine option. We've got all of that and more coming up on Let's Whine About DMV Sports on the IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. And once again, good evening, sports fans, and welcome to a brand new episode of Let's Whine About DMV Sports here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports, and who, for the past 10 years and counting now, has been bringing you amazing content, ranging from interviewing legendary athletes to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports cities around the country. If you have not done so already, please follow us on all social media platforms, X, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, all of the above at IE Sports Radio. You can also follow yours truly at Let's Whine _IESR. You can find me on Instagram, TikTok, and X under that moniker. We are available on all of the below options. So if you're listening live or you're listening later on in the week or over the weekend, you can find us on all of these below: Spreaker, Spotify, iHeartRadio, a whole bunch of different options there for you. And of course, do be sure as well to check out the website, iesportsradio.com. There you will find our merchandise at the link below. You will find all of the individual show pages. This one is for yours truly right here. But we have over 30 shows, so you can check out all of kind of the background of the show and the voice behind the show through those links. You will also find our blog here at this link, as well as iesportsradioblog.wordpress.com. And of course, we also have to shout out our sponsors. And I think the best way to do that is to hear a quick word about them right now.
IE Sports Radio fans, this show is brought to you by Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky. Planet Jerky is the official jerky of the 2022 California League champion Lake Elsinore Storm, Single A affiliate of the San Diego Padres. This all brisket jerky has gluten-free options, contains no MSG, no sodium nitrate, is low in sugar, and high in protein. Go to their website at planetjerky.net and follow them on Instagram at Planet Jerky. Planet Jerky, the jerky that's on a whole other planet.
Hey there, IE Sports Radio fans. Be sure to check out our sponsor, Seal the Deal Wax Seals by Cecilia B. You just finished your very own wedding or baby shower invitations and you're looking for that extra special touch? Maybe you just wrote a letter to a relative or a friend and you want to add to their smile when they receive it. Then seal the deal with Cecilia's handmade sealing wax stamps for your invitations, letters, and gifts. You bring the deal, we'll bring the seal. You can find them on Instagram at sealthedeal_wax stamps and on Facebook, Seal the Deal Wax Seals.
And welcome back to Let's Whine About DMV Sports here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Once again, shout out to our sponsors, Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky that's on a whole other planet. They've got all different kinds of flavors ranging from classic barbecue all the way up to the spicy stuff, Carolina Reaper, Ghost Pepper, Volcanic Jalapeno, all sorts of different flavors in between. So do check them out on Instagram at Planet Jerky and just go to planetjerky.net right now. Well, okay, wait for the next commercial break. Don't go now. Head over to planetjerky.net and order yours today. It's only $10 a bag, which for premium handmade jerky is very good deal these days. So definitely go over there and get yours. It's a wonderful sports snack for any sporting event, football, baseball, watching hockey, all the above. Definitely get yourself some. And of course, shout out to Seal the Deal Wax Seals by Cecilia B. Great final touch to your wedding invitations, your baby shower invitations, birthday party invitations, fancy party invitations, Christmas invitations, all of the above. They all need a custom wax seal by Cecilia B. So check her out on Instagram at sealthedeal_wax seals. And you can actually order these direct from the IE Sports Radio website at the link below. So definitely check those out. Like I said, if you have any special occasion, a special event coming up, you gotta get yourself those seals to add that nice little touch. We've got a lot of sports to get to, but first, we got to give some shout out to a couple of the listeners. Taryn Rodriguez, who's also the host of our volleyball show, Set Point, the best volleyball podcast on the internet. You should check him out. He goes live with that on Mondays at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific time. He's also the host of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show, so check that out as well. And Larry B., good evening to both of you gentlemen, and good evening to all of you listening at home, and greetings to those of you who listen later on in the week. Of course, we also have to get to our beverage for the evening. So we have been going with the Winking Owl brand out of Aldi as our wine theme of the month. Last week we did the Moscato, which was good to start, but I'm not going to lie, it didn't get as good as the evening went on. So that's definitely one that you want to drink fresh right when you open it up. Be great for like a party with multiple guests, multiple people around. You guys can each pour yourselves a glass, sip on it, and don't necessarily let that one sit as long because it starts to lose a little bit of its balance, a little bit of its flavor as it sits. Tonight we are going with their Sauvignon Blanc. Now, the Sauvignon Blanc, they label as the origin is California, which was the same as the Moscato. It's got a description of dry, which is pretty common for most Sauvignon Blancs. Light-bodied with notes of citrus, lemon, and apple, which is right on par for a California Sauvignon Blanc. We're checking off all the boxes here as we go. Enjoy with seafood, light pasta dishes, and poultry. I'd agree with that. And best served chill, which I don't know if you can tell by the condensation on the glass, but I definitely have that taken care of. 12% alcohol, so quite a step up in kick from the Moscato, but that is to be expected because it is not a sweet wine. So let's get ourselves a little tasty pour here. And we got to get the swirling action on. Got to get the swirling when you're talking about a wine like this. Color, virtually none, almost clear, kind of looks like water in my glass. I promise you it came out of this bottle. You can see, I poured a little bit. There you go. All right, so the color, body, virtually non-existent, which it did say light-bodied. So this is all lining up perfectly fine. Reminder, Winking Owl, a $4 bottle of wine. We're not looking for fantastic. We're not looking for out of this world. Hell, we're not even looking for above average. We're just looking for a decent wine that you can sip for $4. So let's see. Let's give the sniff. Of course, you got to give the sniff test. Very aromatic. Wow, that's actually quite impressive. Very citrusy, kind of a lemony, zesty note in there, which again fits with the notes, citrus and lemon. Wow. It's funny because I just read it and I basically just repeated the thing, but that is what comes off of this. Those are the notes that you're getting. But of course, it all comes down to the taste. The wine can smell good. It can look, well, mediocre, as this one does. But it all comes down to taste. So let's give it a taste. Not bad. It's got a nice little tartness to it. Decent acidity. It's got a nice little that mouth-watering. I will say the fruit flavor is virtually non-existent, and the balance is not perfect. You get a very overwhelming tart flavor to it. For $4, it's fine. If it were any more than that, I might start to kind of question the quality of it. But it's decent. It's sippable. It's not terrible. It's not making me spit it out. Yeah, not bad. Probably it might be a little bit better with food, I would say, than to sip on its own. And that's a characteristic for some wines. Some wines are not necessarily meant to be drunk on their own. This one, that lemony tartness, which is kind of overpowering, would probably actually go really well, like it noted, with some seafood. That's a flavor that typically goes really well with fish. So that makes sense. And light pasta dishes too. Oh man, this would be great with like a creamy white sauce, maybe not an Alfredo sauce, but maybe like a oh gosh, I'm trying to think of the word. I can't think of the word, but kind of like a creamy pasta sauce, white pasta sauce, and chicken. Oh yeah, this would go great with some roasted chicken on top of some light pasta. Yeah, that could definitely work. And good evening to Jen B joining us as well. Yeah, so that is Winking Owl Sauvignon Blanc. It's okay. If I had to pick one between the Sauvignon Blanc and the Moscato, I would probably take the Moscato. But this is not bad. I think if you like drier whites, I think this would be manageable for you. I think this would also make a very good cooking wine because, again, it's got that lemony tartness. So you could actually put this in a sauce and get a really nice quality out of it. So good for cooking, drinking with food, sipping on its own, maybe not this wine's forte, and that is okay. We are going to take our first commercial break of the evening. When we come back, we are finally going to dive into some sports. So don't go anywhere. You are listening to Let's Wine About DMV Sports here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
What's up, everybody? This is Darren Rodriguez. Are you a fan of volleyball? Are you a fan of Thunderous Spikes? Then I have the show for you. Set Point, where I cover NCAA men's and women's volleyball, high school boys and girls volleyball, beach volleyball, and even professional volleyball. Catch the action every week here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Sports fans, Do you like teams that are tough, cities that are tougher, and fan bases that are passionate about their teams? How about teams that are historic and stadiums that are iconic? Then you belong in Chicago, and you need to check out Chi-Town Weekly. Join me, Adam Kernan, every week as we keep up with all things Chicago sports. Bears, Bulls, Blackhawks, Cubs, White Sox. We'll cover them all, plus more. The Windy City is always buzzing, and we'll keep you up on all the big games and major stories. So tune in to Chi-Town Weekly every week right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
And welcome back to Let's Run About DMV Sports here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Now let's finally jump into some actual sports here. And we're going to kick off our show on, well, I mean, there were like 3 or 4 different ways I could have kicked off the show tonight, and all of them would have been depressing. So let's just start with the most depressing one first. The Washington Commanders kicked off their season away against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers this past weekend, and they lost 37-20. Baker Mayfield had an incredible day. I believe he had 4 touchdown passes, at least one of which was to Mike Evans, who's always, a great receiver. Mike Evans is. But what were the themes of the game? Obviously, you can tell by the score the Commanders did not play very good. But what was the problem? Well, for one of the things that stood out to me was the terrible defense. Obviously, the Bucs put up 37 points. They faced virtually no resistance driving up and down the field. In fact, the score probably would have been even worse, but there were a handful of miscues by the Bucs on a couple of their opening drives that cost them just a few points. It wasn't like, I think they still got a couple of field goals, but it was just the difference between 37 points and maybe 41 or 45 points for the Tampa Bay Bucs. They got decent pressure, decent pass rush at times, but oftentimes they took poor angles to where Baker Mayfield was able to escape and scramble around and make some plays. I do believe they did get a sack. I believe it came from Clelin Ferrell, the newcomer defensive end, journeyman veteran. He's been around the league. He's bounced around a couple teams. They signed him in the offseason, and I believe that was the only sack of the day for them. A lot of guys came really close. Deron Payne came close a couple of times. Jonathan Allen came close a couple of times, Dorrance Armstrong, but they just couldn't quite get Baker Mayfield down. And that, led to some led to some plays and some yards given up. The secondary looked awful. It looked terrible. Nobody could cover anybody. There were blown assignments, which is why I'm going to skip the second point and jump to the third point. Coaching? Because that was honestly my main takeaway as I was watching this defense was, have they coached these guys at all in the offseason? Blown coverages, missed assignments, guys not doing things, ball in the air and guys not turning their head, like things that we as viewers can see. Well, okay, I mean, clearly that guy was supposed to go there and that guy was supposed to go there, and the one guy went down and the other guy didn't cover, and all that jazz, like things we can see. But like, were these guys not aware of it? Like, what's the deal? And players taking poor angles, guys taking the same angle to get to a player and both missing the tackle. Like a couple of defenders ran into each other a few times. It's just the defense looked disorganized. It looked like it was a combination of guys being overwhelmed by a very good Bucs offense. You got to give it credit. Baker Mayfield, since he's come to Tampa, has been very good. Erase whatever you thought about him in Cleveland and LA or Carolina, the other places. Since he's been in Tampa, he has been a different quarterback. And obviously you've got Mike Evans, you've got Chris Godwin, on one drive alone had 3 third-down conversion catches. Like that was incredible. I was like, what? He's open every time. What are you guys doing? So Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Rashad White had a good game against them. So, it was a good offense to go up against, and this team looked unprepared. They did not look very well coached, and they didn't look like they were really that great. Bobby Wagner was all over the field, but most of the time it was a little late. I mean, Bobby Wagner's getting up there in age. A couple of guys had good games. Jamin Davis, who is converted to an edge player, the former first-round pick at linebacker, actually made a few good plays. Jeremy Chin was making a lot of plays, free agent safety. And Benjamin St. Juste made a couple of decent plays in coverage, but he also blew a couple plays in coverage. Now, last year's first-round pick, Emmanuel Forbes, looked awful. He looked terrible. Every time you saw him, it was because he was giving up a catch. He had one awful play where he got thoroughly beaten downfield. So his best strategy was to reach out and grab the opposing player, which was not only pass interference, but he also grabbed their face mask. So it was a double. It was pass interference and then a personal foul. So he had double trouble on that one. But he looked completely overwhelmed, and that's not good. Rookie Mike Sanders still got a lot of play in the slot as the nickel, and he did okay. He had some blown assignments as well, but then again, like I said, the whole daggum defense just did not perform well. And then the offense, my takeaway from them, work in progress. Jaden Daniels looked like a rookie quarterback. You could tell that the team was not trying to get him to do too much. Very simple pass play, simple concepts. He was at his best when he got to scramble around and make plays with his legs, which were some of the biggest offensive plays of the game. He did not really have a great connection with his receivers, which we'll have to see how that develops over the course of the season. The offensive line looked okay, not great. I think Andrew Wiley was a guy I noticed repeatedly getting beat on the edge. Sam Cosmi didn't look to me like he had a great game. And Brandon Coleman, the rookie, got some playing time at left tackle. And, he had some rookie moments, but he also had some moments that made you think, wow, that guy looks like he can play. So we'll have to see how that also develops as the season progresses. One thing that I was very pleased with on offense was the play of running backs Austin Eckler and Brian Robinson Jr. The two combined for over 150 total yards, which, by the way, for over a 17-game season, average equals out to over 2,500 total yards. So that's pretty good to combine between your two guys. They were making plays in the passing game. The running game wasn't great, although Robinson did make a couple of good runs. But Jaden Daniels was the majority of the run game. But yeah, in the passing game in particular, they both made some really good plays. Brian Robinson probably had the play of the game for the team where he caught a 30-yard pass. He caught a pass out of the backfield, made a defender miss, got a block from Austin Eckler, and almost scored, got clipped at the 1-yard line. So, that was probably the most exciting play of the game. I was a little disappointed. I didn't get to see rookie tight end Ben Sano. I would have to have seen what he could do, but I guess we'll have to see that over the course of the season. We did get a little bit out of Zach Ertz. Zach Ertz made a few nice catches, showed to be a good safety blanket, which you would expect a veteran tight end with a rookie quarterback to take that role. So overall, not great. This team looked like the team that we kind of expected them to be starting out, a little disheveled, kind of getting their groove together, getting to know each other. All we can hope for is a week over week improvement, which leads me to their next game. The Commanders face the New York Football Giants on Sunday here. And obviously, big divisional match, especially given that the Giants have beaten the Commanders. I think 4 times in a row now, I recall seeing, or 4 of the last 5. Either way, it's been a really bad stretch against the Giants, which is bad because the Giants haven't been good in that stretch. So the fact that they've been beating the Commanders so handily is not a good sign. But what are the keys to the game? Well, like I said, continued growth. The Giants do not have the offensive weapons that the Bucks have. They do have exciting young rookie Malik Neighbors, but I would say their wide receiving core is a step down from the Bucks. Their quarterback is a step down, Baker Mayfield to Daniel Jones. Their offensive line is probably comparable. Andrew Thomas is one of the best left tackles in the league, and I feel good because I really liked him when he came out in the draft. So that makes me feel good that I got that one right. I don't get a lot of draft ones right, but I got him right. I thought he was going to be good. A lot of people had their doubts about him. But yeah, overall, it's not as good an offense. So this is the opportunity for the defense to start to make some more plays, get some momentum, build some confidence as well. But it's all going to come down to the coaching because, like I said, that defense did not look well coached or well prepared. And then offensively, the Giants have a pretty good defense. They have some playmakers over there. So it's about protecting Jaden Daniels. And yeah, get him moving. Get him moving more. The offense was at its best when he was running around, scrambling, and creating things with his legs. That's his fortitude. And as a rookie, you got to play to some of his strengths. So I think you got to get him moving out of the pocket, get him scrambling, get him into some space where he can do some damage. He does this weird little tumble thing as opposed to sliding, but whatever. And then continue to get Eckler and Robinson involved. I mean, these guys are both Eckler's a seasoned playmaker who with tons of experience, and Robinson has made plays for this team over the past couple of years. So yeah, get them both heavily involved again, and then hopefully that opens some things up on the outside for guys like Terry McLaurin and the rest of the receivers, because I mean the rest of the receivers are just kind of they're just okay. Olamide Zaccheaus got most of the snaps. Zaccheaus and the rookie Luke McCaffrey got most of the snaps at wide receiver, other than Terry McLaurin. I think De'Ami Brown might have gotten in there for a snap or two. But either way, yeah, that wide receiving core still concerns me. Very much so. But moving on from the Commanders, of course, we have to move on to our Ravens. Now, the Ravens obviously had played the Chiefs on Thursday Night Football. So by the time we had made it to our show last week, they had already played. So they get a pass on getting ragged on like the Commanders just did. But they do have their week 2 game upcoming, and they face the Las Vegas Raiders. Now, what are the keys to this game? Now, the Ravens as a whole looked better than the Commanders, but they still lost. So the keys to the game, well, so the Raiders, no offense to Raiders fans, not as good as the Chiefs, and I think I believe they're playing at home, so advantage Baltimore. Regain the momentum. I mean, it wasn't a bad loss. They almost came back and won that, and tied and or won that game last week. So build off of that, take that momentum and convert that. Just because it was a loss doesn't mean it wasn't a momentum builder. So build the momentum, get Lamar going. He was already making plays. Get the connection to Zay Flowers, get Mark Andrews going, keep Isaiah Likely going, get Derrick Henry running. The defense has some playmakers, but it also is not perfect. So, you take advantage of the holes. And the offense, same deal, has some playmakers, not perfect. So take advantage of those gaps. The key to defeating the Raiders is to minimizing the impact of the studs. They have a couple of studs overall, but their 2 main great players on this team, one on offense, one on defense. And they have other really good players, but there are two great players, and that's Devontae Adams, wide receiver on the offense, and Mad Max Crosby. I almost said Mason Crosby, the old kicker from Green Bay. That would have been a faux pas. And Max Crosby on the defensive side of the ball. If you can neutralize those two guys, you have a really good chance of beating the Raiders. So whatever you got to do, I know that right tackle Roger Rosengarten didn't have a great week, so maybe you do something to help him on that side in case Crosby lines up on him. Ronnie Stanley looked good. I think if Crosby lines up against Stanley, I think Stanley can hold his own. Obviously they'll win some, lose some, but if he's on the right side going up against Rosengarten, or if they decide to not go with Rosengarten this week and maybe they go with a guy like Patrick McCarry at right tackle, or maybe even Josh Jones, somebody, do something to make sure there's extra help on that side. Get Patrick Rickard in there to chip, and don't leave yourself in a situation like they had last week where it was so many rough instances where they had to have running back Justice Hill blocking Chris Jones. That was just strange. So let's not do that. But yeah, play your game, Baltimore. You should win this one against the Raiders. And before we take our second and final break of the evening, we need to give some love. I missed them last week. We don't have to really do much in terms of college football because we were to cover all of our college football teams last week, and nobody's really played since then. But we got to give some love to the Mystics. The Mystics still playing. They are 12-24 overall. Now, I know that record sounds really bad, but we have to remember that this team started, I think, was 0-13, 0-12, 0-13, one of the two. So they have either been 500 since then or been a little better than 500. And let's see, they were playing tonight. They played against the Atlanta Dream, and they actually won. So now they're 13-24. They were tied for last with the Dream in the Eastern Conference, but now they are second to last and fourth worst overall. So this is a team that has improved over the course of the season. Now, they're not going to make the playoffs, so let's not start to get delusions of grandeur. But the improvement is encouraging. I think the play from some of the players is encouraging. Stephanie Dolson, Ariel Atkins, the veterans leading the way, but also some unsung heroes like Julie Van Loo and I've heard Dee. I forget her last name, but I know her first name is Didi, D-I-D-I. Yeah. So some of the unsung heroes combining with some of the veterans to start to put some good games together, and that's encouraging going into next year. Now, they still lack that person, that player, so we'll have to, we'll talk about that more in a couple of weeks when the season wraps up. I'll give some postseason awards out to them. But yeah, good play from the Mystics. And what do we want to see over the last 4 games? Continuing that, getting some of these younger players in, getting Aaliyah Edwards, the rookie, in there, and some of the other players who they've kind of assembled over the course of the season. I got to look up what her name is. That's going to bother me here. Maybe she played tonight. Let's see. It is, let's see. Washington. She did not play tonight. Oh, no, I wasn't thinking Jade Melbourne. That's who I was thinking of, the young backup guard. She has made some plays for the team. Brittany Sykes with 20 points tonight. Good on her. Oh, and also, what's this person's first name? Emily Engsler, another kind of unknown who the team picked up and has had a very good season. We are going to take our second break of the night. When we come back, we are talking baseball, and not generally positively. But in any case, do not go away. You are listening to Let's Whine About DMV Sports here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
What's up, Pittsburgh? This is Ralph Calise, the host of the Injury Report on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Are you that passionate, diehard Steelers, Penguins, Pirates, or just a Pittsburgh sports fan? Then please join me on the Injury Report every Tuesday on IE Sports Radio, the direct feed for all that is sports. And I will update you on all that's black and gold and have you telling your Pittsburgh fans and friends what's up with Pittsburgh sports. Tune in Tuesday with me, Ralph Calise, the Injury Report on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Let's go!
Hey, Cleveland and Columbus sports fans. This is Jen B, host of the Show of the Land on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. If you love Cleveland and Columbus sports like I do, be sure to tune in live to the Show of the Land on Tuesdays, where we will cover the Cleveland Browns, Cavs, Guardians, and Monsters. We will also talk about the Columbus Blue Jackets, Crew, Fury, and of course, the Ohio State Buckeyes. We'll also cover other colleges in the area like Akron, Kent State, Cleveland State, Mount Union, John Carroll, Baldwin Wallace, Youngstown State, among others. So like I said, if you love Cleveland and Columbus sports like I do, be sure to tune in Tuesdays to the Show of the Land with Jen B on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
And welcome back to Let's Whine About DMV Sports here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. We are on to the final segment of our show, which is, of course, my prime time to remind everybody of the show's main message, which is please drink responsibly. Do not drink and drive. One of my favorite social media posts regarding this topic is that you can afford an Uber or a taxi before you can afford a DUI. So please drink responsibly. Do not drink and drive. It is simply not worth it. I will not be going anywhere after this, and if you have been drinking, neither should you. So if you're at home, please stay put. Or if you're out and about kicking off the weekend, maybe you had a rough week at work, or maybe you're hanging out with friends, catching whatever, maybe some baseball games in the local bar or local hotspot or whatever it is. Just please, whatever the reason, please find a safe method home. Uber, taxi, designated driver, Lyft, Amazon, ship yourself home. I don't care how you do it. Just please drink responsibly. Do not drink and drive. It is simply not worth it. I wish I didn't really have to do this, but we do need to talk about some baseball, folks. So, yeah, let's start it out with, you know what? We're going to start it out on a positive note. We're not going to start on the super duper negative note. We're going positive to start, and we're going to start with the Nationals and look at their week in review. So this past week they were 3-3 overall, including a victory today against the Miami Marlins. That moves them to 66-81 overall, which is still the third worst record in the National League, still second worst record in their division. but that's okay. They've been playing very good. They've been getting good pitching performances. They've been getting some occasional good hitting. And I did want to give a couple of shout outs to infielder Jose Tena, who has been hitting the ball very well, had multiple hits in multiple games over this week's stretch. And also, hang on, little bit of a spelling error. Give me one moment. That is not Dylan Cruz. It is just supposed to be Dylan Cruz there. But shout out to Dylan Cruz's defense. Dylan Cruz, top prospect in the organization, one of the top prospects in all of baseball. Got off to a really hot start when he came up, has kind of cooled off a little bit, come back to earth, but he has made some phenomenal defensive plays for this team over the past few games in right field, and that's great. Cruz is touted as a 5-tool guy, and while I didn't think he would end up with all 5 of his tools being elite, I did think at least all of them would be above average. So it's great to see the defense catching up to the offensive performance he started with. Now we just need to get that offense back. And Jen B, the host of our Cleveland show, the Show of the Land, shouting out Jose as well, as Tena was a guy who we got in the trade when we traded Lane Thomas to Cleveland. So I like that trade so far. That's working out pretty well. Plus, we have all of our top outfielders now up with the team. So I can't really complain about moving on from Lane Thomas. Cleveland got a guy who's helping them, and we're getting a guy who I think is going to be a useful piece for at least the next few years. Now, when we get closer to the offseason, or when we get into the offseason, we can talk a little bit more about the evolution of this team. But for now, we can just enjoy the fact that this young squad is competitive and they're making exciting plays. They've got 15 games left. They need to go 6-9 in that stretch in order to beat last year's record, which was 71 and 91. So they need to go 72 and 90. I know they've got a couple of games left against the Marlins here. Who else do they have on the lineup? I think Philadelphia is on that list, unfortunately. Let's take a look. No, not the Commanders, the Nationals. There we go. All right. So we have 2 games left against the Marlins this weekend. 3 games at the Mets, followed by 3 games at the Cubs. So 1 playoff team, 1 team that's a playoff long shot. But, still 2 very good teams. Actually, 4 games against the Cubs. My apologies. 3 games at home against the Royals and 3 games at home against the Phillies. So that's 3 playoff teams and a very good team, plus 2 games against the non-playoff team. So could the Nationals go 6-9 in that stretch? I think so, but they're going to need to win at least one of these next 2 against the Marlins. I think the Phillies series at the end of the season isn't as bad, because I think, based on the looks of it, which they have, they've got a 7-game lead in the division. So I'd be very surprised if they didn't have the division wrapped up in that final series, and the Nationals might be able to steal a game or 2 just by that logic. Jen B also letting us know Lane Thomas with an 8-game hitting streak. So great for him and great for Cleveland. Some team in the American League needs to get some momentum entering the playoffs. So if it's going to be the Guardians, hey, so be it. Let's let it be the Guardians, because it is certainly not this team that we are about to talk about, the Baltimore Orioles, who, since we last talked, have been 1-4, including almost getting no hit today. They didn't get their first base runner in today's game against Detroit until the 8th inning, and didn't get their first hit until there were 2 outs in the 9th inning. Now, amazingly, thanks to a phenomenal pitching performance by Zach Eflin, there was still a 1-run game, so they actually still had a chance. But the offense has been abysmal. 0 runs, 1 run, 2 runs. I don't think they've scored more than 5 runs in a game in like a week and a half. I don't think it's been since we played the White Sox that we scored more than 5 runs in a game. Or there might have been one of the games against Tampa last week, but man, it has been there are words that I can use to describe the Orioles offense right now. The starting pitching has been very good. They, in the last 7 games, which, by the way, the team is 2-5 in that stretch, They have 5 quality starts and a 6th start that was 1 out shy of being a quality start. No starters given up more than 4 runs. So, it's not the pitching's fault. The bullpen has screwed up a couple of times. Will say that, but the bullpen as a whole, I mean, today 1 1/3 scoreless innings, scoreless innings the last couple of games. But yeah, just the offense, terrible offense. So many of the bats are cold. Jen B trying to make me feel better here, saying Detroit's pitching is crazy good, and that's true. But y'all, interesting note, Jen. So the Orioles have a 3-game series this weekend. Then they get a series against the Giants, and then they get another series against Detroit. And between those series, the way the pitching is set up right now, they dodge Tariq Skubal, probable American League Cy Young Award winner in both series. So we don't even get Detroit's best pitcher in these 2 series. And yet so far we're 1 game in, and they have scored 0 runs and gotten 1 hit and 1 walk. Terrible. Absolutely terrible. This team is going nowhere. Are they going to make the playoffs? Probably. They realistically, they've got how many games left? 14 games left. If they went 7-7, they'd get to 90 wins and make the playoffs. If they went 6-8, 89 wins, 88 wins probably gets you the playoffs this year in the American League. 88 to 89 wins. I don't think that would be too much of a stretch. But it's not just about just making the playoffs. It's about getting momentum. And, oh, by the way, side note, key games against Detroit, since I already talked about it. Yes, those 6 games. And the reason that's important is because Detroit right now is the first team out of the playoffs in the American League. And you don't want to lose 4 or 5 of these games and allow them to start creeping their name into that conversation, because you have to stay ahead of them. But you also have to try to stay ahead of the other teams in the wild card race, because this team, they're not catching the Yankees for the division, even though the Yankees have done everything they can to let the Orioles stay in that race. I don't see that their way the offense is going, them catching the Yankees, although there is a 3-game series coming up against the Yankees in a week and a half. So I suppose there's still an opportunity to do so with those games. But you also got to stay ahead in the wild card, because you don't want to be the road team in those wild card games. At least if you're the 4 seed, if you're the top wild card team, then you can turn around and at least host the wild card game, whether that be likely hosting Kansas City from the looks of it, or maybe even hosting Minnesota. At least you would want to host those games, not have to travel on the road. So yes, can the Orioles turn it around and get the offense going in these next 14 games? Because if they can't, they're gonna be out in the wild card series. There's no other way to put it. You can't win in the playoffs when you're scoring 0, 1, 2 runs. I don't care who your starting rotation is, but I do want to shout out the starting rotation. Dean Kramer, Zach Eflin, Albert Suarez, all pitching very well. Even Corbin Burns has started to look much better than he did in the month of August. Not quite to like the ace level he was in the middle of the season when he got voted as the American League All-Star starter, but starting to look better and starting to look like somebody who you can trust in a playoff game. He gets the pitch tomorrow night. Hopefully he can put up a good performance and the bats can actually start hitting so that the team can get some wins, because you need to score runs to win baseball games, and you need to win baseball games to get into the playoffs. It's generally the formula that they use. That will do it for tonight's show. Thank you all for tuning in. Thank you to Larry, Jen, and Taryn for jumping in the chat room. Thank you to everybody who listens live. Thank you to everybody who listens later on the week. A reminder to please follow us on all of these social media platforms. Follow me on X, Instagram, and TikTok. Do be sure to listen to us at all of these options here below. Check out our website where you can get our merchandise. You can see our show pages. You can see the blog, all of the above and more. Shout out once again to our sponsors, Planet Jerky Premium Beef Brisket Jerky that's on a whole other level. You can follow them on Instagram, or you can check them out. You can buy the product direct here from planetjerky.net. And of course, shout out to Seal the Deal Wax Seals. You can follow her on Instagram here, and you can buy her merchandise as well. We will continue next week with Winking Owl Wine Month, and of course, continue with all of these great sports. We got tons of football going on right now, still in the heart of baseball season. Hockey is very, very close. We even have our, the neutral zone is returning. I believe it's either next week or the following week to this, I believe 9/24. So the following Tuesday, not next Tuesday, but the following Tuesday, neutral zone will be back. So hockey's upon us. And basketball's right around the corner. I don't know how I'm going to fit all of this in. I'm going to have to extend the show to an hour and a half. And, of course, once again, please, soft reminder, please drink responsibly. Do not drink and drive. It is simply not worth it. Once again, thank you all for tuning in. This has been Mike Patt for Let's Whine About DMV Sports on the IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Have a great week. See you next time.